Hi everyone, I'm back. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Natasha Rosewood and I teach quantum healing. Anything that heals is going to make us feel better and is going to change your world and our world. So this week I'm talking about 5 ways you can talk to dead people. Have you lost somebody, have they died, or have you lost perhaps a pet and you're feeling very lost and really grieving? These 5 tips, I hope, are going to lessen your sense of separation from that spirit and help you, give you strength to get through this very tough time, because grieving is a process and we can't go around it. We absolutely have to go through it. So there are different ways that we lose people. So when somebody dies suddenly, whether it's from a heart attack, or like happened to me with my fiance, or a suicide or an accident, a sudden death can be much harder for the person left behind who has to deal with that, because not only are you dealing with the loss, you're also dealing with the shock. So I want you to be very, very compassionate with yourself in that process. And a lot of my clients, when they come to me, it's kind of interesting because they always ask me, is that person okay? Have they crossed over? Are they at peace? What I find with most spirits when they die, mostly under natural circumstances, they're so happy to be out of their body. They're happy to be home with their other loved ones and friends. And they're much freer because they're in a spirit frequency. They miss us, absolutely. They think about us, but it's not them I'm worried about. It's the people who are left behind that are grieving that really need the support. So you really don't need a spirit medium to be able to talk to your loved ones who have passed over. Unless, of course, there are some very deep unresolved issues, things that were said or weren't said before the person passed over. And we tend to think, oh, it's too late, they've gone now, they're dead, I'll never be able to do that. But that's not the truth at all. And one of these 5 tips, I'm going to be showing you a way to resolve those unresolved issues. So the first thing we need to understand is that there actually is no death. I believe that our physical body is like a coat for our spirit when we come into this lifetime. And when we've done what we need to do when we're here, we kind of cast off this coat, which is our physical body, and we return as our essence to our home in the spirit realm. But this isn't on the other side of the world. I actually believe that our spirits who have passed over are just in another dimension, on a higher frequency, and they're sometimes moving in between us while we are still struggling here in our physical realm and our physical bodies in this somewhat lower dimension. So I'm going to be talking a lot about frequency, as I do in quantum healing, and I'm going to be giving you some new techniques, which I'm very excited about, to be able to commune with your people that have passed over. And the only difference between people who can commune with spirit, because many of my clients do already, which is wonderful, and those who can't, is just belief. So we tend to say that seeing is believing, but actually believing is seeing. So first you have to need to get into the belief frequency, and then that opens up the possibility to see, sense, feel, and hear spirit in their respective dimension. So the first tip is to get in the same frequency. So it's very much like putting on your TV and deciding, oh, I want to watch Downton Abbey on PBS. So you need to turn to PBS. You're not going to turn to CNN and get the news. So it's about thinking about the person that you want to commune with and getting into the feeling of already being able to communicate with them. And that like attracts like. And so when we're in that same frequency, it makes it easier for them to come to us and for us to go to them and to actually be able to communicate. So I'm sure some of you have had the experience that when you think of a friend or a person that you haven't seen in a long time, and you're thinking about them, and suddenly they call. This happens to me all the time. I just had it happen yesterday, and it can save you a lot on your phone bill. But this is the way it also works in the spirit realm. So you're thinking about your one that's departed, and you're thinking and thinking about them. Well, they're also picking up on you thinking about them, and then they want to come and visit with you as well. So it's a mutual, we're all like big magnets. And when we think and feel something about somebody, especially quite strongly, they're going to pick up on that and want to come through. And we all have an intuition. I'm definitely not the only one with this gift. And an intuition is really about releasing ego and getting into a place where we're just really at peace. We've got no boundaries or limitations. We're just in a state of being. Hi, Peter. I see you've just joined me. Thanks for coming. I hope this supports you on your journey as well. And so this intuition is where I go to when I'm really doing my ghost busting or my spirit mediumship work. I'm getting my ego out of the way. And when the ego is out of the way, there's no judgment, there's no resistance, there's no expectation. I'm just being. Hi, Sandra. Thanks for joining me too. I'm very interested in everybody's story about communing with spirit. So if any of you have anything you want to share, I'd love it, because as you know, when we share our stories, it really helps other people too, and definitely helps them get through the grief process. A lot of people will say, oh, Natasha, I heard this voice, but I think it was just my imagination. Well, the spirits speak to us as voices in our head. So you think it sounds like your dead fiance or your sister or even your pet. Maybe you have a dog that wants to commune with you. And we tend to say, oh, that's just my imagination. But what I want to really empower you to believe is that is spirit speaking to you, because that's how a spirit guide speaks to us sometimes, literally a voice in our head, through the intuitive, when we're not clamped down into our ego, when we're free to listen. So when you hear those voices, trust them. Number 2 tip is ask for a sign. I know a lot of you know how to do this. So white feather was a popular one with my fiance who died. I get a little white feather, but he also had a cowboy hat, and I hung that on the wall. And when I go into my office, when that hat was lying on the floor, I knew that Zig wanted to come and speak with me. So what I would do is go and sit on my bed or sit in a chair and just close my eyes, get into my intuition, my spirit realm, and just listen. I would just ask him, what is it you need to say? And then I would express myself as well. So if it's just a simple message, if it's a feather, it could be a song on the radio, you might hear your favorite nickname being called or something like that. You know that the spirit is saying, hey, I'm still here, I'm still with you, I love you. However, if that message is stronger or more complicated, they might give you a nudge and say, hey, Natasha, I feel like I need a reading. I'm getting a feeling I need a reading. And when that client comes for the reading, that's when the spirit comes through and say, oh, they've been wanting to tell you this for a little while now. And it might be saying, get out of that relationship, or make a move, or take that job. So they're communicating with us all the time, either through signs, through the weather, through plants, whatever they choose to do. Just make sure that you see the world as one big sign from your spirit. Hi, Diana. Welcome. Let me know, like I said, sorry, I've got an itchy nose now. Let me know if you have any stories about speaking with spirit, because as we know, when we share, it's a sign of caring and it helps everybody else. Number 3 tip is make an appointment to meet. And this I found very, very useful. So what you can do is set intention to meet at a certain time. Maybe it's when you wake up in the morning. and you say, okay, Zig, I want to talk to you, and let's get together at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you go to your virtual place. So it might be in your bedroom, or it might be on your honeymoon, or in a beautiful place that you visited where you're just very happy together. It might be in the park. You choose, and then invite that person to come and join you. And when you do that, you're going to, or just sometimes I suggest getting another chair. You sit in one chair and you have this empty chair, and you invite your spirit to come and sit in the chair and just be present. And then when you go into your meeting, sounds kind of official, but you know what I mean, and you relax into that intuitive sense, you're letting the ego go, you're letting judgment go, you're just kind of free floating, and then you express what you need to express, and then listen and be very patient, because sometimes this process can take a while. We don't trust it always. It might feel a little bit weird in the beginning, but just keep doing it. And if you set up a routine, that spirit will probably say, hey, it's 7 o'clock on Thursday morning, time for me to go and talk to Natasha or Diana or Sandra or Peter. Just get into a routine and be patient with your own process as well. Very important to let go of expectations. A lot of my clients will come and say, well, you know, I want to know the will is, or I want to know this, or I want to know that. And I say, well, sorry, that's not what they're telling me right now. They're telling me something completely different. Because sometimes when spirit goes over the other side, they don't care anymore about the material at all. Sometimes they don't care about the fight, or it's like, it's so beautiful over there, and I've seen it and felt it. It's not important anymore. So they're asking you sometimes also to release and let go and forgive. Number 4, and this is the cool one. So as I'm talking to you, we're talking about quantum healing. And quantum healing means instead of us manifesting and bringing stuff to us in this low frequency, with quantum healing, what we're doing is we're setting intention to go from this frequency, say 5 watts with your light bulb, going to 5,000 watts, going to a much higher level. When we go to this higher level, we can go into the dimension where spirits are. And I've done this a few times. It's been very interesting. I didn't meet who I expected to meet. In fact, I had some nice surprises, but they were so happy to see me that I'd actually gone to them. So you can absolutely do this if you feel comfortable. You may want to ask your guides and angels to take you there. It's the same process when I do ghost busting. I lift those spirits up from this kind of old past misery where they're stuck, in asking the guides and angels to assist them up into that lighter frequency, and that is their quantum healing. So in the same way, we can actually, with intention, we can actually go into that higher frequency and meet with whoever we want. Maybe it's our mother, our parents, our grandparents, our ancestors. You might be surprised who steps forward. Some people, some spirits may not be available to speak with you. Maybe they're off doing something. Maybe they've reincarnated. But you can go there and you can ask questions and just be open to see who steps forward to greet you. It's very, very cool. So you'll have your own experience, and the more you do this, the bigger the experience becomes, and just trust that you are safe in that place, because it is absolutely very beautiful. For anyone who's afraid of death, it is like so beautiful on the other side. I can't tell you how lovely it is, because I've seen the very edge of it, and it's just very comforting to know that that's what home looks like when we shed this physical body that we're going to be shedding. The final tip is, number 5, is heal unresolved issues. And this is good advice whether you're alive or you're on the other side. But what happens is, if when people die and we haven't had that final I'm sorry, or we've had that final conversation, and we don't always have to make, you know, we don't have to love each other and have each other over Sunday tea. I had this with my oldest brother. We made an agreement that we were going to agree to disagree, but I acknowledged him and I said, you know what? We're all good here. You're doing your thing. I'm doing my thing. I wish you all the best, lots of joy in your next life. And so I felt very good about that. We didn't have to agree, but we came to a place where we were okay, where we were both at. And we'll probably see him in the next life, and we'll pick up where we left off. So when the person dies, so for example, when somebody dies suddenly and they weren't ready to die, or they committed suicide, or there was something that they didn't complete, they may not be at peace. So it's always great when a client comes and I'll say, oh, this person's coming through and they want you to know this. So that's absolutely possible. If you're not feeling comfortable with something, I suggest you write them a letter. And this is always a good technique for healing anyway. And I call it the sandwich letter. So you write the positive, what they meant to you, how much you love them, what you learned from each other, then the negative, how you hurt each other, maybe whichever side of this coin happened on, and then finishing off with saying that you want to feel at peace, you want peace for them, and you want to be able to move forward knowing that all is well in your world. Now, what I suggest you do with that letter, and this is up to you, you could bury it for sure. What I've done with it is burnt it, and I've made a little ceremony with rose petals, a nice candle, maybe some kind of herbal essence, vanilla or lavender, anything that's cleansing that you feel is good. And as the smoke goes up from the letter, you ask your angels and the angels of the person that's gone to make sure that this message goes up with love and forgiveness, and everything is released now. You can also ask to get a message back saying that the spirit did receive that message, and you can ask for a sign knowing that we're all good now. But be patient. It's like you might send that letter to a live person and you wouldn't expect an email straight back. You might have to wait a little while because they are also in process on the other side of releasing and healing from this lifetime. So we're all in this together, whether we're in this physical realm or in the spirit realm. So there are the 5 tips. I am going to put them on my blog and on LinkedIn. And I do want to let you know, some of you already know that I have this book called I Thought You Were Dead and Other Psychic Adventures. And these 20 stories have helped a lot of people understand the spirit realm, what happens after we die, what happens before we're born, what happens to our pets, what about past life issues, and do we pick up where we left off? So that's one book that might support you. Another book I found very helpful when I was grieving was by Betty Eady. It's called Embraced by the Light. And it was her near-death experience. And she talked a lot about the spirit realm. And that I found very, very comforting as well. So, of course, if you still need help with unresolved issues, or you've lost somebody and you just can't get past the grief, because there might be guilt, anger, remorse, unforgiveness, please feel free to get in contact with me. As you know, I do a lot of spirit mediumship work and ghost busting. You can contact me on my website, natasharosewood.com. And I know you know this, those people who are watching, but no Ouija boards, because we don't want unwanted guests in our home. We just want to commune with the people that we want to speak with. So be very specific about that. And in the meantime, I'm just going to leave you with this thought. It's not about how or when we die. In my experience, it's about being at peace and being complete in our relationships. And really that's what life is about, is how we love ourselves, how we love others, and how we allow ourselves to be loved. So it's about being good within all our close relationships, so that we don't get into that place where if they suddenly popped off or you suddenly popped off, there's going to be that aberration and that kind of agitation in the spirit. We want to be at peace with our relationships. So I want to thank Jenna also for joining, and Pauline, it's so lovely to see your names here. And please comment. I'd love to know how to give you information that's going to really serve you as we go through these interesting times. And know that I'm now offering quantum healing, and we can go from this dimension to this dimension just like that. And it's very exciting. So I send you peace, namaste, and I'll see you on the bright side.